Shalom Aleichem, my name is David Yosef Bris Hashem. Today I'll be presenting evidence that I have found and have others is the most compelling evidence that Judaism is true. I've done my research and did my best to be unbiased in looking through all the evidence. Now, Judaism teaches us not to just believe, but to know that God exists. And some of the sources for that are Exodus 16:12, Deuteronomy 7:9, the Rambam's Mishneh Torah, Hilchot Yesodei HaTorah, chapter 1, Halacha 1, and Sefer Chinuch, Mitzvah 25. Truthfully, we're not able to know 100% beyond any shadow of a doubt that Judaism is true. Rabbi Lawerence, Keleman, and others have mentioned this when discussing this topic. That's part of where some faith comes in. But we can know through overwhelming evidence that Judaism is most likely true. Rabbi Dovid Gottlieb from Or Sameach Yeshiva has wisely pointed out that we all live our lives based off probability. For those with parents or siblings, we know that the probability of them being who they say they are, generally speaking, is true. It's greater than that they're lying to us and that we're actually adopted. And even if we demand a DNA test, we know that the probability that it's going to come out accurate is much greater than that it's going to be tampered with. Or if we open up a checking account, we do so because we know the probability that our money is going to be safe is much greater than that the bank's going to close down and steal our money. Generally speaking, of course. So the question is, how probable is it that Judaism is true? Before we get to that, it's important to know that the evidence isn't sufficient. No evidence can be, unless one is willing to be completely intellectually honest and embrace the truth, regardless of any considerations. And if that's the kind of person you are, ashreicha, you are praiseworthy, sincerely, especially in this generation with so much deception and lies. Being truthful is the trait, it's the midah, that our Jewish sages highly praise, as brought down in Orchot Yosher by Hagaon Harav Chaim Kanievsky, Zatzal. To begin, Rabbi Lawerence Keleman discovered to quickly and systematically determine the credibility of any religion, look at its origins. Almost all world religions begin with either one or a small group of people claiming that they had a divine revelation of some sort. So the entire religion stands on the word of one, two, or a few people. That's it. Some examples are Christianity, where Paul was on the road to Damascus and he claimed that Yeshua appeared to him. Another example is Islam, where Muhammad claimed that the angel Gabriel appeared to him, and Buddhism, and many, many more. It's easy for a small group, or especially one person, to fabricate anything. You can't verify it. If we're honest with ourselves, a religion that you can't verify isn't sufficiently compelling to follow. Plus, you avoid the fallacy of, if you're following this religion, why not follow the other ones that are not verifiable? Now the question is, how did Judaism start? Is it verifiable, or is it just like all the other religions throughout history? According to Exodus chapter 20 and how our oral Torah understands it, God spoke 2 out of the 10 commandments to approximately 3 million Jews in Har Sinai. Moshe was told the other 8. So Judaism claims that 3 million people all heard God speak simultaneously. Entire nation. And they got to tell their children and their grandchildren, etc., in an unbroken chain to this very day. That's unique among all world religions. To my knowledge, the closest another religion has gotten to this claim is just saying that someone's ancestors all heard God speak, but they all died. And somehow this information was forgotten, and so this person or these group of people are coming to inform them of this. And that's not a refutation because, again, this is one person or a small group informing these people of this. Others have tried arguing that in Greek mythology, you have a god that's teaching 1 or 2 people or a small group of people how to light fire. But again, how many people? 1, 2. And also you have a flood story in Greek mythology which restarts humanity. So we ultimately have a myth that is told by 1 or a small group of people. In order to refute the mass revelation in Har Sinai, you need to, number 1, find a religion that has a national divine revelation, or at least a large identifiable group of people that all heard a supernatural God speak to them and they all lived to tell about it. And number 2, this was told in an unbroken chain of tradition, so the masses didn't completely forget about this story. Another attempt is the Aztec myth that their false god led them to a new homeland in Mexico. And while at first glance this seems to meet criteria 1 and 2, if you read the book, The Handbook to Life in the Aztec World by Manuel Aguilar Moreno, their false god actually spoke to the Aztec priests, not to the entire nation, so it's not a refutation. It used to be that many Bible critics liked using what's called a documentary hypothesis, which was created in 1780, It's basically a hypothesis that claims that over time there were four primary authors to the 5 books of Moses, the Chumash. But the strength of that has been debated since the 1970s, and nowadays doesn't hold much value. In today's universities, the best argument they try using against the Har Sinai revelation is that it was an evolving mythology, or that someone lied to the Jews, or a group of people lied to the Jews, that their ancestors heard God speak. The issue with the theory that the Jews were lied to in one way or another is that we have great record of our Jewish genealogy, and we know who our leaders were, and what contributions they made throughout Jewish history. In the Rambam's introduction to the Mishnah Torah, he lists 40 generations from Moshe Rabbeinu to Rav Ashi, who participated in the completion of the Talmud in 500 CE. For thousands of years, we have records of everything. We know who our rabbinical leaders were in every generation, and we even have names for the time periods, from the Savuraim, the Geonim, the Rishonim, and the current Acharonim. We have no records of Hezekiah, Josiah, Ezra, or anybody making things up along the way. And when you look at the Har Sinai experience, it's one story. There's not multiple versions of the same story like you find in Greek mythology, Native American mythology, Christianity, or any other religion. We Jews have kept a very good track of our own history. As an example, when you look at a sofer, a scribe, he has to write down from a sefer Torah, from a Torah scroll, word for word what it's saying. He can't just write down from his own memory. Even if after all this, one still wants to come up with some type of counter-argument of how this happened naturally, you have to ask yourself, if this was a natural event, why can't it be replicated? Why is Judaism unique in this claim? And if you want to say it doesn't matter, that Judaism is unique, that other religions don't have a mass revelation, history repeats itself. Examples, the French Revolution, and also Napoleon and Hitler, Yimach Shemo, invading Russia. So in almost 6,000 years of recorded human history, we should definitely see another religion with a mass revelation, but we don't. This is because it wasn't a natural phenomenon, but rather supernatural. And amazingly, the Torah predicted that there would never be another claim like ours. In Devarim, Deuteronomy 4:32, in Shemot, Exodus 19:9, and Shem informs Moshe Rabbeinu that the Jews will all hear when he speaks to him, to Moshe, and they will believe in him too, forever. To paraphrase some of the Ramban's commentary on Shemot, Exodus 19:9, all the people would experience prophecy and hear God speak for themselves, and not need to rely on the words of another, that God said such and such. So they'll see for themselves it's the true God that's been speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu, and they'll believe in God and in Moshe as his prophet forever, throughout the generations. And that's exactly what we've seen throughout the 3,000 plus years to this very day. Thank you for watching. Please share and subscribe. See you next time.